I think we fixed it. Hooray! All right. I think we fixed it. Let me just verify that we are good to go, which I think we are this time. So if you were hanging, waiting for me, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it. All right. So, hi. Welcome to the day after holiday. Hopefully, you had whatever kind of blessing and peace in your holiday that you wanted to have. And you are back and ready to think about the rest of this year. Because, we still have some weeks in 2024 before we roll over into 2025. And there's a piece of baggage, especially that I want to talk to my Gen X sisters about, that I think we've been carrying for a long time, that I think it's time to put down. And that's this idea of being an imposter, trying to make sure people don't realize that we're a fraud. And I just want to I want to come to you today to talk to you about this because I don't want us to walk into 2025 carrying this piece of baggage anymore. Now, if you are new here, I'm Dr. Sasheen. Welcome to my channel. Please feel free to hang out and comment, share your thoughts with me as we have this conversation about what it means to live this transition of our lives and take no crap in the process because we live by the rules here. Rule number one, our peace is non-negotiable. Rule number two, nothing and no one gets to fuck with rule number one. So if you can live with those rules and you want a little company, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's talk about this thing called imposter syndrome, because I don't know about all of y'all, but I grew up in an era of time where we were the latchkey kids, the forgotten generation. People jump over us as if we didn't make any kind of significant, contributions to history. We really, really did. But we don't get talked about in the same ways as all of the generations around us. And so it always feels like, or has felt like, we are constantly trying to prove our merit, prove or that we belong in the spaces that we are a part of. And we've probably lived that way most of our lives, through all of the iterations of our lives up to our now 40s and 50s and beyond. And I thought about this a lot this week as I was watching some of the commentary back and forth, because, I'm keeping up with what's happening currently. And this channel doesn't shy away from what's happening in the world. But my focus is really on helping us to figure out how we're going to navigate the next transition period of our lives. Because I don't know about the rest of the folks out there, but Gen X has been carrying the burden of a lot of things for a long time, and we deserve a break. Like, we deserve to focus on ourselves, and that's what I'm here to do, is help you focus on you. So I think about this thing called imposter syndrome. And as a college professor for many years, I talked to women, especially older women coming back to school, who would be just crippled by the feeling that they didn't belong, that somehow they needed to prove that they should be allowed a seat at the table. And I hear that echo of that sentiment in a lot of women over the years. And I see that echo creep up in women who are high achieving, who have accomplished so many amazing things in terms of their personal life, their financial life, their home life. These women are juggling all kinds of plates, right? And yet there's still this piece of them that says, do I belong? Have I proven that I'm good enough? Have I shown that I deserve a seat at this table? And I think about where we are in terms of the history of our culture right now. And I think that Gen X women, no, I don't think. I know that Gen X women need to remember that through every decade that we have been alive, we have quietly, usually, sometimes out loud, but usually quietly behind the scenes, kept things moving forward. And people have constantly looked to us to be that thing that they can judge themselves by, to be the signpost that they can go, oh, okay, so I'm here now, so I'm going in the right direction. And because we've always been the signpost, the litmus test, the bar, I want us to walk into 2025 owning that. And here's why I think this is so important today. Imposter syndrome has allowed us to keep relationships in our lives that have never served us well. It's allowed us to take jobs where we were undervalued underpaid and overworked because again we felt like we had to prove ourselves first and then get a seat at the table instead of realizing that we are the blueprint. Like we set the standards, so we should be compensated accordingly. And so as I think about how we're going to move into 2025, and I have a, if you're free around Christmas, I'm going to do a whole between Christmas and New Year's, a whole walk into the things that we need to focus on in 2025 as Gen X women that are non-negotiable on our non-negotiable altar of things. But I think about how important it's going to become even more so to stop letting other people dictate the blueprint that they're stealing from us. So, as I was saying, we have stayed in relationships, we have taken jobs, we've become parts of things, we've done things, all because we didn't want people to forget about the fact that we have a contribution and that we have a significant contribution to the world and to life. But because we move through life quietly, just kind of keeping our heads down and doing what we do, people look over us and then we start to doubt ourselves. We start to we started to believe that we weren't enough, that we weren't right, that somehow we didn't belong in the spaces that we've helped create, that were built on our backs, that are supported by our labor. Like we literally exist in spaces that we have helped to birth, grow, and release out into the world. And we exist in those spaces as if we need permission to be there. And so I'm asking you to think about your life today. And so that's why I wanted to come live, especially because I didn't want this to wait for a video. I want you to think about your life and where you have shrank away from who you know you are because you felt like I don't belong there, even though your skills are the ones that keep things going. Your ingenuity is the thing that solves the problems. Your work ethic is the thing that keeps the ship upright. Your planning is the thing that executes all of the stuff that people love to talk about. You are the linchpin that holds all of these pieces together, but you don't actually get a say because you don't believe you belong there, even though you are literally the hub in this wheel. In so many areas of our life, we have played the small role because we felt like we didn't belong there. And this past couple of weeks, these few weeks, it has become very crystal clear that the things that we have built as a Gen X generation of women has been co-opted and used against us in some ways. And because we have felt so long that we didn't necessarily belong in those spaces, we didn't fight in a way that would have preserved our voice in those spaces. And today I'm telling you that is no longer an option, that we have to start fighting not to preserve other people's perceptions of the spaces that we exist in, but to preserve our reality of the spaces that we exist in. What do I mean when I say that? Let me get real basic. Let me bring it way down. Relationships, we'll start there because you know what? Women have a hard time making friends with each other, especially as we get older because we're busy, we're different, we all kinds of things happen. We will get into relationships with people who are a little bit younger than us or a little bit older than us, whatever the case may be. But we will stay in relationships, even though we're not getting anything out of it, because we feel like, I feel like I need to stay in relationships with people because I don't necessarily know how to make friends. I don't necessarily know how to exist in the world in a space and in a way that allows people to know me and get to know me. And so I should stay in the relationships that aren't really not really satisfying to me because once they get to know me, then they'll know how great I am and then they'll treat me better and it'll be great. That's the imposter not believing that we deserve good relationships from the jump, from the rip. And because I think this goes back to being raised as kids who were so freaking independent and self sufficient that we also had to be our own best friends. And we called ourselves quirky and weird. And I am quirky and weird, don't get me wrong. But we said things to ourselves to make ourselves feel better because no one around us was validating us because we we're alone all the time. So we try to be adults, good and into friendships. And we think if I can just show you that I'm a good person or that I'm a good friend, that I'm loyal, loyalty, that I'm loyal, that I'm caring, that I'm, non-judgmental, all of these things, then you will believe that I belong here and you'll be my friend. That's that imposter syndrome. And it is breaking us down. And this year, especially this year, 2024, we can see the cracks in our facade where we have had to say, okay, I have been in this space with these people. I have done relationship with people. I have been in jobs and I've been in places and been part of organizations with people who didn't actually see me. I did all this work. I did all this work and I've given so much of me to people who in the end didn't actually see me at all. And I blame them for not seeing us for the fantastic beings that we are. I also recognize that our belief that we don't belong in certain spaces and at certain tables allows us to let folks treat us like we're invisible. And yet, and yet, and yet, ladies, they're the same people who this week, next week, the week after that, and sure enough, a couple more weeks coming, are going to be going, well, I'm sorry, can you tell us what to do? Can you come back and plan some things for us? Can you come back and give us your ingenuity? Can you come back and give us your skills? Can you come back and give us your empathetic listening? Can you come back and give us your listening ear? Can you come back and give us your shoulder to cry on? Can you come back and help us figure out our life again? Because you were kind of the thing that was holding us together, even though we weren't acknowledging that you were doing so, because we just assumed you'd always be there. And our imposter syndrome kicks in to say, oh my gosh, if I don't do that, will I belong anywhere? And I'm telling you that we're going to say no, because that does not protect our peace. It does not protect our peace. It does not do us any service in 2025 to know in our core right now on November 29th. I think it's 29th, might be the 30th. I lose track of time. It's the 30th. It does nothing in our core on November 30th to know that we have been we have been used for the groundwork that we have laid. We've laid the groundwork. Think about how people talk about their relationships. Oh, I want relationships that are full of women who are strong and caring, women who have empathy, women who have sympathy, women who have their shit together, women that can do X, Y, and Z. They're always talking about the Gen X generation of women. They're always talking about us. Oh, women, these women in corporate America, they can do this, they can do this, they can do this. These entrepreneurs, they can do this, they can do this, they can do this. These women, they get out there, they start businesses, they do this. I'm not poo-pooing millennials at all, not close, okay? So please, if you're a millennial woman or a boomer woman and you're listening to my voice, I'm not poo-pooing you. I'm simply talking to the forgotten generation of women that I'm a part of that has been there in the background, laying the blueprints for so many aspects of life that have been taken for granted for far too long. And because they've been taken for granted, we have developed imposter syndrome, believing that we don't have a seat at the table. And this year, I'm trying not to say election, but this year has really underscored the fact that we have been taken for granted in a monumental way. A monumental way. And the blueprints for everything that's going on, all the reconciliation talk, all of the let's figure out how to work things out, those blueprints that people are looking for people to give them have come from Gen X women. I started working in the political arena as a volunteer, as a postcard writer when I was still in high school. The lived experience of women in my generation that have been on the ground for causes that we're passionate about, for families that we care about, for communities that we love. We have been on the ground picking up the pieces from the people who came before us, building the next structure for the people to come next. And in that process, we've been diminished in ways that have left us feeling like we didn't have a voice, that we didn't have a place. And I am saying that we are no longer going to do that. We are no longer going to be in spaces where our blueprint is used, but we are not valued. We are no longer going to offer and volunteer our skills, our time, our money, our resources, our physical bodies into things where our blueprint is useful, but we are not validated. We are no longer going to allow relationships where we are the fixer, the caregiver, the curer, the comfort, the whatever it is that they need for us to be to make them feel better, where we are the blueprint for that feeling that they need. They know they needed it and they see where they can get it, but we are not validated anymore. But we are not validated at all. We are no longer going to exist in places where our humanity isn't validated anymore. So I read a lot of books. It's kind of what I do. I'm a huge reader. And I'm reading a couple of books right now, but I was really revisiting The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I like this book. It's really short. And um, one of the things that he talks about is that you can't take things personal, because the stuff that you're going to take personal is not your stuff. It's other people's stuff that they're putting on you that you take personal. It's not your stuff. And I often think about that, especially when it comes to imposter syndrome, because I've gone through it. I went back to grad school twice, and both times it was an enlightening experience about how much I don't feel like I belong, right? But anyway, so Ruiz really talks about this idea that the stuff that you are taking personal isn't even yours. So why are you carrying it? And that has stuck with me for a long time. And so when you think about the stuff that you are carrying, the stuff that you are, hang on, I got comments. I didn't even see it, y'all. I'm sorry. Hey, Cicely. When you're thinking about the stuff that you are carrying, that you have been carrying for other people, the stuff that you are having to labor under, right? Like that is sitting on your shoulders. Is it yours? And are you even in it? Are you even under it? Like, do you see yourself in any of the stuff? And here's an even deeper question, ladies. And let me talk to you. Because we have this imposter syndrome that says, you don't really belong here anyway, so you just need to accept whatever it is that you're giving. Because we labor under that, are you carrying stuff in the hopes that the person that you're carrying it for will turn around and go, hey, thanks for carrying that for me. I know you've been doing it for like 5 years now, and I really appreciate it. You are amazing. Are we hoping for validation finally so that we can put it down? Just asking the question. Just asking the question, because I think for a lot of us in this age range, we do carry that. In this generation, we do carry that. Again, when you are responsible for yourself after school, you have a key to the house. You have to be assured that you don't burn it down, and you might have to feed yourself, potentially take care of younger siblings at the same time. Make sure that nobody gets in. Heaven forbid somebody's trying to break in. You got to get home from school. You got to open the door. You got to go in the house. You got to close the door. You got to fix yourself something to eat. You got to fix the little something to eat if that's what you have. You got to do your chores when you get there. You probably got to start your own homework. You have been living the blueprint of carrying burdens for as long as you can remember. Where were you validated in that for being wonderful? Was it usually after you had completed every single task to perfection, and maybe a few more tasks that you didn't really need to? And then finally, did someone turn around and go, good job? Or did someone just say, well, that's what you're supposed to do? And so we grow up and we go through our lives looking to see where we are validated, where we fit. And let me tell you something. Like we talked about last time, the relationships that are going to test you in the next year, the ones that are going to really test that rule number one piece, that are going to really make you go, don't try me, are the ones that you are the blueprint for. You literally are the litmus test against which people are going to try and test themselves. And if you step back and go, I'm not going to do that for you anymore, folks are going to lose their ever loving minds, y'all. They're going to lose their minds, because when you're the blueprint, but you pull the blueprint off the table, hang on for a second. I want to say hello. Hi, Cicely and T.N. Taylor. Thank you for joining me. And Amy, thank you for joining me. Okay, I just want to say hello because I'm live and I don't often get to say hi to y'all. People are going to lose their ever-loving mind when you take your blueprint off the table. But I got to ask you to take your blueprint off the table. I have to ask you to start saying, I'm not going to be an imposter in my own life anymore. Because I think so many of us were caught off guard by certain things that have happened in the past 4 to 6 weeks because we have been so focused in our bigger life, in the bigger life that we live, in playing the role of what we need to play, because we haven't always felt like we had a seat at a table, and we just didn't want to feel like we didn't have a seat at the table. And so it came as a shock to the system in some ways. And I think this is why so many of us are still struggling with the relationship piece. Like, how did I miss it? You didn't miss it. It's a shock to the system to realize that all this time that you've been laboring under the idea that you were the imposter, you were actually surrounded by imposters. We were actually surrounded by people who were actually the imposters, but we believed so much that we needed to prove something that we didn't miss it. We didn't miss it. We just didn't understand that we were feeding all of these people our energy. We were feeding all of these people who were looking to us to go, okay, what is she doing? What is she doing? How's she doing? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. Um, and because we didn't realize that we were setting the standard and that we were the Pied Piper in some ways, um, we thought we were just part of the staff and not the leader. We thought we were all in this together, that we all felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome together, but that we were all in this together. Let me tell you something. We are not all in this together anymore. We're not all on the same page anymore. If you look at some of the things that are happening in terms of the communication around people's lives right now, if you really listen to what they're saying, especially talk of reconciliation and let's bring things back together, like I was saying a bit earlier, a lot of that is asking the Gen X generation of women, please, 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 please do not take from us that which has held us together for almost 50 something years now. Please do not pull the rug out from underneath all of the frameworks that you have carried for us on your backs. Please, 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 please do not drop a bomb in the middle of this grid that we have built around you by moving yourself out of it so that we have to figure out how to put the pieces together for ourselves. That is what's happening to people all over the interwebs, probably in conversations behind closed doors, maybe even happened at that table that y'all sat around on Thursday, where people were like, how come we can't just all get along? It used to be that we could talk about politics and everybody was fine. Now everybody's got an attitude. And the reason that the angst and the questioning is there is because the blueprints, hi, that's us. The blueprints are realizing if we built this with you, what can we do without you? Ladies, if we built all of this with you, our ideas, our skills, our labor, our love, what can we build with people who actually don't require us to prove that we belong? What can we build with each other that validates, incorporates, and uplifts and affirms who we are instead of praise we never realize who we really are and takes our power back? What could we build if we actually said to ourselves, I am the blueprint that holds this together. I will only build with other blueprints. And I will not let anything else lay on top of my blueprint and use it for themselves if I'm not getting complete 100% reciprocity. What would our lives look like? What would our relationships look like? What would our families, our jobs, our everyday interactions, what would all that look like? Who would we become in 2025 if we started believing that we're not the imposter, but are in fact the blueprint? So I'm going to talk a little bit about Vice President Harris for just a moment. And then I'm going to let it go because that's not what this stream is about. But that woman was and is the blueprint for how to run a campaign. In 100 days, she did something that only she could do. Only she could do it. She had the skill set for it. She had the knowledge. She had the understanding of history and the timing. She was put into a position to do something that only a woman of her caliber could have done and did quite successfully. 76, 74 million of us quite successfully said she did that. She did that. 100 days. She went from what's the VP up to good God. 73, 74 million people got the message. And you know why they got the message? Because she was ready, because she was the blueprint. Remember how they used to talk about her before the campaign started? Remember the naysayers and the squabbling and the oh my gods and the this, that, and the other, because people expected her to show up feeling like she was an imposter, like she didn't really belong, and that she was going to have to ask for permission to be great. How did she show up? She showed up and said, not only do I not require your validation, I'm going to build a machine that is going to drive us straight towards the victory. We didn't win, but that does not mean that campaign is not going to go down in history as the moment when the world recognized that in 100 days, $1.2 billion raised, 700,000 volunteers on the ground. In 100 days, a person who the day before was thought to be suffering possibly some questions about who she was and her identity showed up and said, I am the blueprint, not the follower. I am the signpost, not the path. I am the beacon on the hill, not the journeyer, not the way, not the wayer, not the pilgrim. In 100 days, she blew the concept out of the water that we don't belong here, that we aren't the blueprint. Every campaign that comes after this one will be attempting to recreate the magic of 100 days. And they're going to have years to figure it out. Will they ever be able to catch that lightning in a bottle again? I have no idea. But what I do know, as the generation of women, she's kind of on the cusp between the boomer and the gen on the older end, the higher end. But we, as the generation of women who are right there with her, need to take the lesson that this gave to us. And that is, we are the blueprint. There is literally nothing that we cannot accomplish, nothing that we cannot put our mind to and figure out for ourselves that we should not be doing. So what have you been putting off because you thought, do I deserve a seat at this table? Do I deserve a seat at this table? Should I even be trying? What will people think? What have you been saying to yourself as you journal in the mornings, or at night? I journal in the mornings. As you talk to your therapists, as you read your books, as you sit in your meditations, what have you been saying? God, I really wish I could. And the reason that you haven't is because you have felt like people are not going to accept, because people aren't going to see me, because I don't know that I belong there, because I don't see how I can make a place for it. What have you been putting off because you have forgotten, or maybe no one ever said to you, you realize you're the blueprint here, right? You realize that you are standing on the shoulders of women who've come before you, who've done the things that you're trying to do, who've left the blueprint for you to follow, and that you're now literally the embodiment of history. So what are you doing? You are the embodiment of the history that has come before you. So what are you doing? That is the message of the Harris campaign. She stood on the shoulders of giants and she said, I'm going to lift up the next generation, win or lose, but I'm going to do it my way. And that's what she did, because she's like, I got the blueprint. I got this covered. I know how to reach the people, because the people who are going to listen are going to listen. And those who are not going to listen are not going to listen. So she went out there and she blazed a trail for herself. And that's the piece I want us to take away from this moment. She might have blazed a trail for other politicians to come, definitely for women, just like Hillary blazed the trail for Kamala. Kamala has blazed the trail for others and whatever's going to come next. But they did it also for themselves. They did it to stand up and say, not only will I be counted, not only will I be counted, I will take the lead. Thank you. I will take the lead. I don't intend to follow. I'm going to show you how it's done. I'm going to show you how to get there. Can't do nothing about what other people are going to think or feel about what they're seeing. But what I can tell you is that when the history books are written, hey, that's going to go down in history, both of those campaigns. It's the reason that we talk about Geraldine Ferraro. It's the reason we talk about Shirley Chisholm. It's the reason we talk about Angela Davis, women who run for office. Because history is like, well, daggone it. They didn't just say, stand up and count me. They said, no, me right here. I did this. I did this. And that's what Gen X women, because I'm so passionate about this. That's why we get so locked in our own heads, because we have been taught that humility is more important than being truly who we are. Truly who we are. Like, ladies, what could you do in 100 days? What could you do in 100 days? I want you to take the angst and the anger and the pain, because I'm still dealing with it as well. Hi, Diana DeLuna. Thank you so much. Yes, please hit the like button, people. I'm going to be wrestling with my feelings about the election for a long time to come. But I'm also, like I was talking about last time, I'm also of that generation of women who's lived through some things. And I know that the only way out is through. But I get to decide how to get through. And this time, I'm deciding to get through based on the fact that I belong here. Because a lot of folks are going to try and tell you, oh, you just have to deal with things because, well, you know. No. I belong in this moment. This space that you see that you're reveling in, I built this. I helped to build this. Not just my ancestors, which are very important, but me. I helped to build this. You think we got pulled out of the 2008 recession just because we had a change in government? People also had to get to work. Who goes to work? Women go to work. Women have always gone to work. Who starts the most businesses in this country? Women. Who goes back to school? Women. Who figures out how to get childcare taken care of for women who have kids and don't have kids? Women. Who starts cottage industries to fill the need in communities where things have disappeared? Women. So if you had 100 days and we know what's coming, if you have 100 days and we know what's coming, what are you going to do? Because I'm upset too. But I also know that we hold the blueprint of the future. We absolutely hold the blueprint of the future. We hold the blueprint, the skill set, the purse strings, the know-how, the knowledge, the skills, the planning, the connections, the networking. How many of you know in your heart of hearts, if you had to call 5 other women right now because you had a business idea, because you can see some things coming down the turnpike in say 2 or 3 months that might hurt your community, how many of you already know? I could probably call 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 other women and say, hey, I've got this idea. And I think if we all did this together, we could make our community a bit safer. How many of you know that you could do that, but you don't because you don't think that you're supposed to, because you are not the blueprint? You are, but someone's told you that you're not. You are the blueprint. You are the litmus test, but no one's told you that you are. So you sit on that idea, or you hope that someone will hear the idea maybe in passing and think of you. But you know in your heart of hearts, if you sat down right now and said, you know what? I have this idea for this business, and I know that in about 3 months, we're gonna end up with some issues because of certain things that are happening, and I know if I started talking to people now, we could put together this co-op that maybe could get us to make sure that we have access to, oh gosh, I know this person who knows that person. How many of you network like you're breathing, but you're not networking for your own greatness because we have been told we're not supposed to do that? How many of you plan, organize, and execute things so fast? You're the one folks call all the time. Hey, can you put together this? Hey, I need to know how to do this. Hey, can you figure out this for me? How many of you are like, yeah, I got you. Here you go. Call this person, tell them I sent you. How many of you do that so much like it's breathing that you don't even think about it, but it doesn't occur to you to do that on a bigger scale? To stand in the chaos of this moment and go, hello, my name is, and I'm going to take over this moment. The rest of y'all can do what you want to do, but I'm going to make sure me and mine are okay by doing X, Y, and Z. Right? Like, how many of us have the ideas in our head for the future that will allow us to move forward and not just survive, but we are not going to execute on any of that because we believe that we shouldn't, because we have imposter syndrome, because we don't belong at that table, because who's going to listen to us anyway? Because I've never done this before in my life. And where am I going to start? Let me tell you my story. I decided to go back and get my PhD. If you heard this before, just listen along. I decided to go back and get my PhD. I was one of the oldest people in my cohort. I was in school with people who had never left school. I've been out of school for a while. I graduated from high school in 1991. Okay. I decided to go back and get my PhD in the 2000s. People around me had never left school. They'd gone straight through. People who were in their 20s, 21, 22. Like, I was literally one of the older people in this cohort. And I, at the time I was like, I don't even think I'm that old, but I was in my 30s. And I suffered crippling imposter syndrome every day that I walked that path for 4 years. Every day I suffered from crippling imposter syndrome. Do I belong here? Can I compete? Can I keep up? Am I going to find a place to belong? The pushback from professors, the support of some amazing women, but all along just judging myself because I did not believe that I was supposed to be there, even though I'd worked to get there. I had to get in, had to get paid for, had to do the work, had to do all the things. And yet in the back of our heads, right? Because validation is something that we are not really getting, especially as we're growing up. We are constantly trying to prove ourselves by being the best at the table so they don't take our place away. And so I got through that. I did it, got my PhD. Dr. Sasheen is not just a pretty title. I worked hard for that puppy. And I have learned over the years that even though I worked hard for it, I still have to prove myself to people because I feel like somehow people will look at me like I didn't deserve it, like somebody gave it to me. And I realized it took me a minute. I mean, this is transparency 101. It took me a minute to just finally say, you know what? I'm going to wear the title of doctor very proudly because I worked really hard for it and it's mine. And no one can take that away from me. The 20 plus years of being a college professor, nobody can take that from me. I did that work. The working on programs of diversity and inclusion, which might be going away, but I still work on those programs. All of the things that I did during the course of my teaching career, I did that. I did that. The businesses that I've started, the YouTube channel that I'm on right now, I'm doing that. It is almost impossible to be crippled by imposter syndrome when your face is on camera. But I recall being in my master's program in one of the very first cohorts of people to ever go on this thing called video conferencing education. I did that. I was in that. How many of you can look back today at a life and go, well, daggone, hang on a second. I did that. I've been a part of that. I've acquired that skill set. I know those people. I did that thing. I met those people. I did that event. I turned that around. I have been literally being the blueprint or creating the blueprint with others my entire life and have never felt like I belonged. And I've never felt like I belonged. Well, I'm here to tell you that that changes in 2025. This is our moment. This is our year. It is our moment because everything, as I said way earlier in this broadcast, but I'm going to say it again now because I want to make sure that we all hear and understand it. It is our moment because we have kept so many systems running quietly behind the scenes, not making waves, just putting our heads down and keeping the world running. And this is the moment where we need to make more noise. But we are not making more noise to keep the systems running the way they have been. We are making more noise because the system has said, I'm broken. Someone needs to fix me. And we're saying, that's not my job. I already kept the system running. I gave you all the blueprints that you needed. I've created all the pathways to success that you could possibly need. You don't want them? That's your business. My new job is creating a blueprint for success for people who want to be with me. That's it. That's our moment. That's our moment. Our moment is saying, you all took from us all the stuff that we've been able to give you to be successful. Feel free to put them back together again in a way that allows you to continue to be successful in the way that you want to be successful. What we're going to do, we're going to put ourselves together in a different way. We're going to look at those blueprints, dust them off, take out the diseased pieces that didn't serve us well, insert some new pieces because we've lived a few more years and we've got some more skill sets, and then we're going to start to build. And that's where this next year comes in. We're going to start to build blueprints for the people who we are in community with. We're going to start to build blueprints that literally create a box around our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, our relational health, and our financial health. We're going to build boxes around our skills. We're going to build boxes around our ingenuity, boxes around our empathy, boxes around our emotional labor, boxes around our dollar bills. And we're going to act in our own best interests and remind ourselves daily, I am building a better world for myself and for the people who are on my side. I'm going to build that world because I know how to build a world. World building is kind of what Gen Xers do. In the recessions, out of recessions, in job slumps, out of job slumps, world on the brink of war, world not on the brink of war. We keep right on building. We keep right on doing. We keep right on going the directions that we need to go. Because let me tell you something. You hear the rumblings, oh, there's going to be a teacher shortage. There's already a doctor shortage. Who goes back to school? Raise your hand. Who becomes nurses, doctors, dentists, teachers? Why? Because we've lived a few times. We got a few lifetimes in our decades, and we decide, oh, you know what? I think it might be time to try something new. What am I going to go try now? What am I going to do? What am I going to go do today? Before I decided to become a college professor, I did something else. I'm phasing out of another chapter of life and into this thing called content creation and building a community of women who are determined to be living their transition with their own piece on the table before anybody else's. Because that's my passion now. That's where I am. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you going to be a year from now? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be a year from now? 2 years from now? 4 years from now? 10 years from now? Because we're all going to age. We're all going to get older. So we might as well do what we've been doing for others and do it for ourselves. We sit down and we take our journals that we've been journaling in all year. In fact, get 2 years of them if you got them. You find the things that you've written, your angst, your frustrations, your hurts, your pains, your goals, your dreams. Get them all, put them on the table before the new year and look to see where you are, where you've grown, how much you've done, what you've accomplished, and where you have said, I hope to be here at this time. Did you get there? Did you get sidetracked? Did you say you were going to do some things and you didn't because when it came down to execution, you're like, but should I? Am I really the one who should be doing this, or should somebody else do it? Will they accept me? Is it time for me to execute? Is it time for me to step out from behind imposter syndrome and say, buck stops right here. I'm going to take everything that comes with this moment, but it's mine. It's mine. It is the lesson from Harris, right? I'm going to take everything that comes with this moment. The buck stops right here. Every decision, I'm going to own it. Every up, every down, I'm going to own it. But daggone it, I'm going to seize this moment because I am the blueprint, because I am the litmus test of the future, because I am the signpost for future generations, and because I am right here in this moment, the fullness of history's perfection. That is what all of us as Gen X women need to think about. We are the fullness of history's promise right here, right now. So, what are we going to do with ourselves next? It's just been too easy to look around to take care of other people. And I want you to understand that it's not going to be easy to center ourselves. Suddenly, centering ourselves after years and years and years of carrying other people. But I want us to take the lesson from the election, from the campaign that I really hope resonates for years to come. We are the moment. We are the moment. And because we are the moment, we need to fulfill the promise to ourselves first, and everybody else can come after that. So, what you been thinking about as we bring this down to a close? What have you been putting off? And what have you said? And I'm talking to a specific person out there. I don't know who you are, but you know who you are when I say this. What did you do the night of the election where you looked at something important and said, I can't do that anymore because the world is going to change? What did you put on a shelf because you think, I guess that dream has to be deferred? What did you stop believing in because the world is changing? Because the world outside of us is changing. It's time to go back and revisit that a few weeks after now. It's time to go back and revisit that and ask yourself the real question. Did I put this to the side because the world is changing, or did I put this to the side because I'm still scared that I shouldn't be the one to do this? I shouldn't be the one to pursue this because I'm too old, because I'm too this, because I'm too that, and then that. We're gonna get old next year. We all gonna get old. We're all gonna get a minute, a year older. Did you put it on the shelf because he won? Did you put it on the shelf because we got scared? Did we put it on the shelf because we got terrified? Did we put it on the shelf because we believe that the opportunity is now going to be gone? Why did we put it on the shelf? And more importantly, take that off the shelf. Take it off the shelf. The world's a big place. Your dream, that thing that you want to do, may need to change, right? We talked about this last time. We're going to change ourselves. The moment is going to change us, but it's not going to break us. It's not going to break us. So you need to dust it off. Pull it back off the shelf. Look at it for what it actually is and ask yourself, how can I do this still? How can I make this happen? How can I show up for myself and make sure that I embrace this thing and not let it go? And not let it go. Do this in a quiet place. Turn off social media. Don't talk to anybody about it. Good gracious, don't call your mama if you can. Don't tell anybody. Pull it off the shelf and ask the very simple question, how can I still do this even though the moment is changed? Because yes, this moment is changing all of us, but it's not breaking us. And because we are not going to break, and we know about change, we've lived some decades, we've been through some things, we know about that. So what's really the question is why did you put it back on the shelf? Why would you put it back on the shelf? Why would you do that? There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to put it on the shelf. The only thing that you do is you tweak the blueprint of how you're going to get there. That's it. You just tweak the blueprint. You figure out the new path that will get you there. And then we execute because Gen X women execute and we execute very, very well. I know anxiety is crippling and it's hard to think about doing the hard thing when you have felt like you don't belong in a space. It's hard to think about saying I'm going to put myself center stage in this when you have always believed that your best role is in the supporting position, that you are the supporting actor to the main character. I know that it's very difficult to say after so many years of being the latchkey independent kid that the house is mine now, actually. I own the house. And so since I own the house, I don't have to worry about being the latchkey kid anymore. I can rearrange all these rooms however I want to and create any kind of environment that I need to feel safe, to feel confident, and to be happy. Part of that happiness has to be pulling those things back off the shelf that you put up a few weeks ago because fear is the mind killer and fear will kill us all. And we are not dying. Not today, y'all. Not today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you got something out of this message. If you did, please leave a comment below. It's so great to see all of you. I appreciate you spending some time with me on this very cold and snowy day here in the Midwest. Please stay warm. Please stay safe. And I will see you again in just a couple of days. Take care, everyone. Oh, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't. Share this message out to anyone that you think needs to hear us. And invite her over for a cup of tea. We're a nice bunch here. I think so. Take care, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.